So I guess I will start with a quick introduction. I feel like there's a few new people around here. My name is Kat, if you are new. I have been a kind of knitter and fibre crafter for a fair few years now, but I kind of do a bit of everything. I really enjoy just making and trying my hand at things. This is my little space of the internet where I've documented my knitting journey from the very first project through to now, where we kind of mix it up. And since my plans have adjusted slightly, I thought it would be a good excuse to get cozy and share some of the projects that I've been working on lately. I still have some projects that are a long time made, finished, worn, well into my wardrobe, but I'll come back to those when I've kind of shared some of the plethora of things I've been making recently. I feel like that feels more correct. So I'll start with, it's not an elephant in the room, I don't think, but the project that I've been working on with the help of YouTube watchers, which is really rad. This is a blanket that I made, and I kind of discussed how I wanted to maybe make one that either matched Audrey, who is my in-house familiar little kitten. She's definitely a house tiger, I would say, and kind of represented her colours, or a sort of blue-green forest and ocean inspired one. And I kind of leant towards Audrey with the hope of knitting a oceany foresty coloured blanket to then go on top in the future, which is very exciting actually. And I have finished up the form for a stitch dictionary, a community stitch dictionary. So what that means is that anyone that wants to partake can send in a pattern, texture, chart, anything that they want to really, and then we will have a collection of stitch patterns and textures to work from as a community. So we could make knitted blankets or shawls or jumpers, anything you wanted. But if everyone sends in either a Ravelry or an Instagram or YouTube handle, people can then connect and kind of feel like you're knitting something with people, and I think that's really special. So I have got the form mostly done. I'm hoping to find a couple of people to look over it first so that I know I've covered the bases I think I need to. But that's exciting. Let's get back to this project. So I started by spinning a bat that I had made by blending fibres inspired by Audrey, who is now eating. So we'll wait a moment. This is where the comes into my brain. I'll pause while this happens. So I then just put a selection of bats and yarns that I kind of thought would work into a basket and got spinning. I really enjoyed spinning this bat. It didn't take very long because it was only, I think, like 30 grams maybe, and I was doing it quite thick. And then I kind of just rummaged in my handspun box because it felt like I wanted to lean more into handspun. And initially I thought I would use a commercially spun warp and then use all my handspun as the weft. So the warp is the threads that go on the loom to begin with, and the weft is the ones that you work through using like a shuttle. In case you're new here and haven't woven before. I try and make it accessible, but sometimes I do slip up. And I noticed a kind of collection of colours that did work within what I think is Audrey. Are you coming up, kitten? Do you want to come and show off your colours? Come on. Here she is. And while so the colours really don't, so the colours don't all represent kind of her fur, which is obviously the, oh gosh, speaking of fur, I've got like 3 hairs in my eye. Wow, another Come on, you. We got to share. We got to... So the colour palette itself doesn't kind of represent Audrey's fur, which is probably her biggest component. However, I do think that these pinks and yellows are bringing out her eyes and her little toe beans, and the green is very similar to her eyes. So whilst it wasn't completely on theme, I think it is, and I'm surprisingly happy with it, because I did think in the palette that I put together that whilst I liked it, it didn't feel what I would usually go for. I've definitely got tea as well as cat fluff in my eye now. Yeah, so I ended up using entirely handspun for this project. I warped the loom using my more neutral colours, with the exception of these lovely orange, pinky, yellow strips, which are a handspun from Charmaine of Yarn Teams. And I don't know that I'll be able to remember every single fibre that's in here, but I know I've got yarn from, or fibre that I've spun from By the Hedge, lovely Alex of Ancestral Craeft. I have some handspun from the lovely, I think it's this side. This is handspun from Meridittle Makes, lovely Mary, and it's Jacob, which is one of my favourites. There's some Gotland that was one of my first spins. So it's all very special, and I have to say the weft is particularly special too, because it was blended and dyed with my lovely friend Marina, who let me use her drum carder for the first time. I first experienced using a drum carder, which is a tool that you use to card and prepare fibre for spinning. When I went to visit her last summer, I took a batch of fibre with me, partly thinking we'd just prepare a bit together or dye it or do something, but we did end up dyeing it and preparing it for my biggest spin yet when I went there, which was really exciting. And all the fibres were things that I held quite close to my heart, I think is the best way to describe. So I had some Romney from a lovely company who the owner of let me use her spinning wheel, and it was the first time I'd ever tried a wheel. I had some jacquard, which is one of my favourite fibres, I go on about it a lot, that my lovely friend Kelsey sent to me, who's knitting the carby on like Instagram and has a yarn company with beautifully naturally dyed yarn. So that came all the way from America. I had some silk, and if you know me, I do really cherish silk. I think it's such a special fibre, and it needs to be used kind of sparingly and really like respected when you use it. But it was just ended up being a really special blend to me. There was a bit of mohair too, because mohair. But I had spun that with the intention of putting it into a garment, and I think actually this was exactly the right, hello you, project for it. I do have a single skein left, and I think it will be perfect, look how different it is, for making a pillow to go. So to cover this. It's a shame you can't see little Audrey here. Hey, if you come up onto my lap, you might be able to be seen. Do you want to come up? About on here. Yep. There you go. You can come up. So with the extra fibre, I do think I will do a pillow cover for the chair, and I do think that's a successful project. It was really interesting to use a variety of different fibres in the warp and a variety of different thicknesses. There was no difference in plying. I think every single one of them was a 2-ply yarn, but some of them were particularly bouncy, some like the BFL I'd spun quite tight and dense and highly twisted, so the way that they all reacted was different, but I think that was a good experiment for me to like feel in a practical way rather than it just being something that you read about, and because I'm quite a hands-on person, I'm a very practical learner. And I think I will either spin something to do the warp or use a commercially spun and maybe go a little bit darker to bring out the 1 or 2 strips of darker yarn that are in here. You just about can't see her. Anyway, so finishing off talking about this project, what I ended up doing was literally doing a plain weave, nothing fancy. Once it was finished, I tied all of the ends into tassels so that I didn't have to do any sewing, which is a really nifty little trick, but also I think tassels look particularly nice, especially on like blankets. So I then popped it into the wash. I just did a hand wash. I was quite rough when I took it out to give it a little bit of an opportunity to felt slightly. I think just because it's going to be used a lot. Little my Audrey hasn't stopped sitting on it anytime I've got off it in, so it will be used a lot. So, and then I used my very hacky method of finishing the tassels, where I use my hair straighteners, which really mostly get used for wool, not human hair, to straighten the ends, which gives a really nice finish, and then just trimmed them, and that was the project done. It's a really simple thing, but it really brought me a lot of joy throughout the project, kind of having the little memories of all of the yarns and the processes and the time spent spinning, and then to see that little Audrey loves it so much and just how much it does match her. I really didn't think it would match her so much. Obviously there's not as much orange in there, but or black, like black brown, but I do think it's good enough and it brings out her little eyes. So I'm very happy with this project, and I can't wait to get a little cushion on the go so that it's all a bit special. I might end up doing covers for the arms eventually. I think that'll be an easy thing just to stop them getting too filthy, which they already are getting a little bit just from being used so much. I'm gonna try and reshuffle the camera so that you can see both of us. And we are back to a very silly angle, but we want Audrey in, right? So the next project that I wanted to share with you is a project that I didn't expect to finish so quickly, but if you've been here for a while, you'll know that once I get going on some colour work, I just find it so Moorish. It is one of my favourite things to knit, but it feels like there's a very certain style that I love to wear when it comes to colour work. I will come and do a close-up so you can see these a bit better once it's not going to disrupt little Audrey. But this one is this one comes from the Raw Wool Company down in Cornwall. Anton makes the most beautiful yarn, and this one is the Dark and Stormy Night 4-ply base. I haven't used this base before, but the other base that I used from him I just wanted to knit everything with once I'd used it. So I was very happy to make this purchase, but also my lovely friend Leanne bought me a skein when we were at Unravel earlier in the year. I love it. It's like a bit fuzzy, it's a bit drapey, but it's got texture, like a structure. It's just a really lovely yarn. And this one is Telespin, which I purchased when I was in Norway for the Oslo Stricker Festival quite a while back, and I have some dusky pink on the same base and the same weight. I think it's about 150 meters for 100 grams. It looks a bit finer than a 4-ply. It is a 4-ply yarn, and I don't know, I just kept seeing these two together and thinking it's going to be the right amount of contrast. It's high enough, but once they're together they become a little bit murky and it becomes a much lower contrast. And I went through my pattern library on Ravelry, and my lovely, I would say friend, I don't know, but this Skipper Knits on Instagram very kindly gifted me a pattern a while back called Pagan Sky by Zante Knits. I really fell in love with the Colorwork charts, and it is a DK pattern, and I have since learnt that there's a 4-ply pattern available for it, but I'm quite comfortable in my ability to modify and to make things how I want them to be, so I re-downloaded the pattern, and with a little bit of swatching I realised that if I knitted the second size using a slightly smaller needle size than what was recommended with these yarns, I would get both a size and a aesthetic fabric that I really, really liked. So I cast on, and and here it is. I don't know that I could be more happy with this, to be honest. I made a few very minor adjustments. I didn't do a folded collar. It's just not for me. I don't really like bulk, and if I want something around my neck, I'll wear a cowl, a hood, a scarf, shawl. I don't know. I either like a turtleneck or a normal collar. I don't really like a folded collar. I'm not sure why. And then I just knitted to pattern, apart from the sleeves, where I didn't do any shaping until the end, where usually I do a really, really rapid decrease, but instead I did about half the amount of decreases that I'd normally do. So it's kind of got a balloon feel, but without being too... Do you know what I mean? It's not so obvious. I knitted the sleeves a little bit longer than I usually do, and I have to say I really like it. I've done that a little bit recently, and I have enjoyed being able to kind of cover my knuckles and get cozy, even though I should add it is still August so you shouldn't need to be getting cozy really, but here we are. And then the only other thing is I did a split hem. This is something that I really love doing, and I do it over and over again, and I don't know that I'll stop. I won't do it on everything, but it just feels really nice on. It hangs nicely over both skirts and trousers for me personally, and I tried not to do this too cropped, so it does just sit on my hip, I think, so it won't give me like a, because I'm quite short, it won't give me the silhouette that I normally get when I knit jumpers, because I often do them cropped so that you can see that I have a tiny bit of shaping to me, because I am mostly rectangular. But I really love the way this fits and how it actually sits over dresses and skirts. So this is going to get worn loads. It's so soft and scrumptious. Obviously, if you're really sensitive, it's probably not for you. I do believe that, you know, with a little bit of wear, most people can gradually increase the breadth of fibres that they can wear. But I'm not sensitive at all. I wear Icelandic yarn next to skin as a good example, but this I find so soft and scrumptious, and if it wasn't a little bit warmer, I would definitely be putting this straight back on. I wish I could get a little bit more of you in, Audrey. You're looking very, very content. Yeah, given the opportunity, I would knit this again, just because it was so fun. Oh, the other thing I do this every time that I'm knitting Colorwork with any amount of floats that are going to be longer than sort of 5 or 6 stitches, and it's called Ladderback jacquard. I really recommend giving it a go if you are someone that likes to do Colorwork and likes to have a bit of freedom on what you're able to do, because it is one of the handiest tools you can add to your toolbox, and it's very simple. All you basically do is when you're setting up and you're ready to do longer floats, you purl into the stitch below, roughly about the middle of where you're going to want your floats to be caught, and then you just purl those stitches, bringing the yarn forward every time you're purling through that stitch. And it just creates, I've been saying this for a while, but I think there's something in doing this on the right side of fabric, but it just creates this fabric at the back, and because of the nature of these fibres, they're sort of sticking together now, which is what I really want. I want to like get this sort of felted together so it's just sturdy and stays, but it creates this section of floats that mean that there's stretch to it. It's about it's twice as stretchy to me as a normal float is. So even if you're someone that worries about, you know, puckering because you knit really tightly and you haven't got the feel of sort of blocking as you go, so stretching the stitches just a little bit after a couple of, like, once you've changed yarns, makes sense. And if you've struggled, I think this is a really great technique to go with. Gives lots of movement, lots of stretch, and takes absolutely no effort at all. And all you do to close the stitches off to get rid of the ladder back is to knit 2 together. That's it. So if you knit the ladder back and the one after it together, you physically can't see where that stitch was. It's magic. Right. Let's stop talking about that one, but I'm really, really, really very happy. If you've been here for a little while, you will know that I really, really love Marina of the Marina Skewer podcast, the Marina Skewer yarn. Marina's the one that helped me do the green. And a little while back, I helped her at a yarn show. I don't believe I was that useful, but she was very kind and sent me some yarn as a thank you. I was torn between sort of not quite this colour. I think her colour's a lot more The one that I was going to go for was a deeper, richer orangey brown, but I think she was right. I've been drawn to this colour for a long time. This is the U colour on the cloudy base, and Marina's clever and does a sunny and a cloudy base, so a cream and one with a little bit of grey through it, so that you can do colour work. It's designed perfectly for colour work, this yarn, and I also think for textured knitting it is just a really gorgeous, soft, bouncy British yarn. Well done, Marina, you're a genius. And she sent me enough so that I could do her latest cardigan pattern, the Welana, I believe it's how she pronounces it. I should know this off by heart. My brain's a little bit, but it was a cardigan that was in Making Stories a little while ago, and it's now available as a pattern individually. I just loved it. I don't know, the cables along the back, I'll pop a picture of it up to the side, and actually the sea glass buttons and the colour, everything that Marina did with that pattern I really loved. And straight away I was like, Marina, I think I need to knit it. So she very kindly sent me the yarn for it, and I cast on, and I have to say it looks a little bit wild, and I'm going to change the stitch markers, but I just used the ones that I had in my tiny pouch that I keep with me in project bags or when I'm sort of going on adventures. So it's actually quite heavy right now, and the choice is a bit chaotic. But this is all I have so far, so it's not very much to show you, but I have cast on, and I know that there was a few of you that were interested in casting on, so if you're doing so and you fancy a very gentle knit along, get casting on and we can share our progress together. I'm so excited to see the cables and to just see how it comes together, because Marina always uses, I don't think it's like it's not unnecessarily complicated, but clever shaping, and shaping that's very, very well thought out. So I'm excited to see how this comes together and sits. I did speak with Marina a little bit about sizing ahead of time, and I've gone for the smallest size. I was tempted to do the second size. Let's put this down because it's making lots of noise. We're waking the kitten. And given my preferences of, I think I said about 6 inches of positive ease seems to be my kind of sweet spot. I love to layer and I like to have a little bit of room generally, not always. So we've gone with the size 1, and I can obviously adjust lengths quite easily as we go. So yeah. Hey. What do we think? I think I might leave it here for now. It's been lovely to see you. I am going to probably record again today about a few other projects that I've got. So hopefully I'll actually have something to upload 2 weeks in a row, which is very exciting for me because it feels very weird when I don't share. I know that I'm like trying to find my flow again, and this has become a bit more like a normal-ish podcast again, but slightly different. But the project I'm going to share is so whimsical. It makes me so happy, and I really can't wait to see it actually in use. But hopefully you'll see that next time, should you wish to come back and visit us again. With that, thank you so much for spending time here. Like, it blows my tiny little brain when I think about how many of you sit down to just give me some company and let me share my little crafts. Yeah, I hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to love each other.